Alright, French. The purpose of this video is to show why you might want to learn French, and if you do, is Duolingo Section 1 of the French course a decent starting point? I should note I'm no professional linguist, so my analysis is not very technical, I'm going to say. I dropped the Italian from last video as there's really nothing else to do with that besides the video. So right now the only actual language I'm learning is Spanish on Duolingo, and I'm only doing the French for this video. But enough stalling, on to the video. I've been doing my video research alongside Italian to compare and contrast Spanish, French, and Italian, and what I found was interesting. Italian was easy because I knew a lot of Spanish. I thought that French was going to be as easy because I knew a bit of the two other popular Latin-based languages. But I was in for a bit of a shock. While Spanish and Italian are very similar, French is the most different of those languages. It's a little bit more difficult to learn, and there are a bunch of new squiggle lines on the letters. There are also a lot of new pronunciation rules. You have to say a letter this way when paired with this letter, or this letter is silent when paired with this squiggly letter. I'll give you a few examples. This is boy in French. It is pronounced garçon. You can see the squiggly C is pronounced like an S and the R is silent. Here's another one. Man in French. It is pronounced homme because the H and E are silent. So hopefully you understand why this language can be slightly more difficult. So why learn this language? Well, according to Babbel.com, French is the 6th most spoken language in the US. It goes English, Spanish, Chinese, Tagalog, Vietnamese, then French. But with the Chinese, Tagalog, and Vietnamese, you have to learn new alphabets, which is not very easy. Believe me. Also, in Canada, the provinces of Quebec has French as its official language. So what exactly is the experience of starting French with Duolingo? It starts off with the usual stuff like how to say man, woman, I, you, and a few animals. While Duolingo Italian started off with food, Duolingo French starts off with travel, which makes sense. According to Wikipedia, France is number 1 in the world for tourism rankings, and coincidentally, number 1 in the world for radio tower rankings. With Duolingo, you will learn things like, I am here, I am going here, I am taking blank as transportation to here. If I had to say any negatives about the course, I would say that if you don't want to pay for Super Duolingo, the 5 hearts you get in free Duolingo can be difficult when trying to learn. This isn't as much of a problem with Spanish or Italian since it is easier to know which letters make which fancy sounds. For me, I was more prone to making mistakes in French with all the fancy pronunciation. I remember not being able to make it through a couple lessons and having to go do practice mode at least 3 times in order to regain all my hearts and make it through the lesson. Sometimes I'd have to do that multiple times. I think Duolingo itself is a good tool to help you learn a language, but it should not be your primary source to learn from. Only recently did they introduce the Explain My Answer button, and that's only for Duolingo Max, something in my opinion I'm not going to pay for. To conclude this video, French could be a useful language to at least try. Honestly, I'm going to stick with Spanish and maybe add onto that a little bit for a little while for the sake of future videos. Obviously, I'm not an expert here, so if any French speakers wanted to add something in the comments, feel free. Merci d'avoir regardé.